Hey everybody, welcome back to Vinyl Junkie Record Shop. My name is Mike, and today I'm going to do a video about a report from a concert that I attended over the, just Thursday before the Easter weekend holiday. Went to Columbus, Ohio to see legendary new wave of British heavy metal torchbearers Satan on the Hell's Decibels tour. I'm going to show you this. I picked this up at a local record shop that I visited before the concert. There's a lot of stuff I want to talk about in this video, and it's probably not as organized as it should be, but the focus is my experience with the show. And I'm going to do another video here coming up that's going to show all of the records that I bought while I was in Columbus, Ohio. Great city if you've never been there. I highly recommend you check out Columbus, Ohio if you're close to it. Lots of things to do, and really good music scene, and great record stores. Okay, so anyway, this is the tour poster. Many of you may be familiar with the Hell's Decibels tour. This year, in 2023, it features Satan, Night Demon, and Haunt. So three very well-respected metal bands in the current, from the old and the current metal scene. The venue was a place called the Ace of Cups. It's a small dive bar type venue, right up my alley. Perfect setting for a show. And honestly, to see someone like Satan, who are, I mean, you could argue they were originators, part of the originators, or first wave of that new wave of British heavy metal, to really cement the foundation of what would be the metal that we know and love. They weren't maybe the first wave. They owed a lot of their sound to Judas Priest and maybe even Iron Maiden, who kind of came up around the same time frame. But it's safe to say that Satan had been around for numerous years, and I think the coolest thing about them in 2023 is that the lineup I saw on Thursday night is the same original lineup that recorded their debut album way back in 1983, I believe it was, but we'll get to that later. So anyway, it's the Hell's Decibels tour featuring Satan, Night Demon, and Haunt. And before we start, I just talk about, I mean, like, the name of the band itself kind of has been a turnoff to some fans over the years. I mean, oddly enough, the band, Satan, many of their songs and material has nothing to do with Satan at all, or anything evil. I think it was just kind of a name back in the early 80s to create kind of, I don't know, maybe a little heat as or just generate a little I don't know, noise around the scene, because, you know, in the world of heavy metal, you know, imagery and things like that have always been important. And, you know, maybe, I don't know, and the band has had numerous or some name changes over the years, worried that the name Satan might detract from their overall commercial viability, I guess. But anyway, they've stuck with it, and there they are. We might see in the background, I want to show this. This was my first introduction to the band Satan. This is a Metal Hammer compilation album that came out in 1984. It was put out by Roadrunner Records, and I picked this up at a Karma Records in Indianapolis, Indiana. That Karma Records is one of the only places in the area where I grew up that had that had an import section and had a lot of that early new wave of British heavy metal stuff that was really popular over in Europe, but was very difficult to get hands on here in the United States. But this was a compilation album that I picked up, and it has you know, everything from, well, we'll run through it: Merciful Fate, Raven, Venom, Satan with the track No Turning Back, Thunderfire, Cloven Hoof. It's even got Metallica, Tokyo Blade, Rods, Battle Axe, Exciter, and Anthrax. So all bands in their formative years and stages back in the early 80s. Cool thing about this too is it came with this, you know, this inner sleeve that's from Roadrunner Records. It has a list of everything that was kind of new or fresh at the time. And just if you just look at this is really cool. Some of the stuff that we've got on here. We've got Anthrax, A Fistful of Metal, Thunderfire, Slayer, Show No Mercy, what it was, All Raven, All for One, who's a little lesser known, or some of the other classic New Album bands. You had Jaguar with Power Games. That was a really popular New Album. There's the Satan with Court in the Act. Earthshaker, who is not part of the new wave of British heavy metal. They were a Japanese band. And then, of course, Merciful Fate from not from Britain, but they came up with that New Album sound. Let's see what else we got. Witchfind, Demon, and then the early Loudness albums, again from Japan, but came up with that new wave of British heavy metal scene. Tokyo Blade, one of the other classic New albums from bands that were kind of, not Iron Maiden, Saxon, or Def Leppard. But anyway, this is pretty cool. So I just wanted to show that real quick and say that was my first introduction to a lot of this New Album stuff. That Karma Records also carried old Kerrang magazines, and I would pick those up and learn about these bands. But it was hard to get your hands on the music, so I never had any Satan albums until later on, much later on in my lifetime. But anyway, let's get back to the show. So I've got some merchandise to show from everyone except, oddly, and this is going to draw maybe some criticism from the community, the opening band in the lineup is Haunt. Now, Haunt is a very well-loved band in the new the new metal scene, brought up by Trevor, I forget his middle name, but Trevor Church. Anyway, guys and people in the know will know that Trevor is the son of Bill Church, who was a longtime Sammy Hagar bassist, Bill Church. And I just think that's pretty cool. I like Haunt. I don't love Haunt. They have got so much material out. The guy's very busy, and he's turning out material after material, album after album. So really, the only reason I didn't purchase anything was just a matter of simple economics. There's a new album coming out. I want to say in May. I'm going to wait and see how that sounds. But I like Haunt. I don't love Haunt. They sounded good live. They had some energy, and I have no complaints about the quality of the music. I just for whatever reason it doesn't hook me in like it has some other fans out there. Not to take away from it, I think it's great what he's been doing, what he's contributed to the current metal scene. But a very fine way to open a great metal show, Haunt. But next up was another band that's really kind of establishing themselves as one of the new standard bearers of modern metal, and that is Night Demon. Night Demon from California. This is their latest album, Outsider. Fantastic album. I'll probably do a review of this album, a standalone video on this album itself. But what was really cool about this is I was able to meet the band, and I've got their autographs right there. This is not a gatefold album, so we'll take everything out. I've not even played this or taken this out to look at it. We'll take it out to give it a little look at. So here's the inner liner, or the lyric sheet, and the album is based upon a short story that was written by Jarvis Leatherby, or called The Outsider, and there's basically the story version of it. So it's a concept album of sorts. All the songs can stand alone by themselves, which makes it a really great album. And it is a fantastic album. I believe this is it's a colored vinyl. That's nice. I like that. It's a little darker than what it looks on the video screen, but it's got the Night Demon, the Outsider label there on Century Media Records. If you've not heard this yet, give it a listen. Fantastic album. It's It's retro, yet sounds very fresh. And it's the production values are fantastic. The performances are great. And it's just a really good album. But if you're not familiar with Night Demon, check them out. I will say that they sounded amazing live. I'm just going to be honest. They came and they blew Haunt right out of the water. I don't know. I mean, and I feel like they had the same type of sound system and quality as far as that goes that was available to them. They just sounded, I think, that much better. And they were amazing. On this tour, they played this entire album, and then they threw in a few classics. Great live set. This band is set to make a huge splash going forward with the new metal scene. And if you're not familiar with Night Demon yet, you should be and you will be. So check them out. Great album. Probably going to see this on a lot of year-end best of lists. And then now the headliners, Satan. Again, kind of at the, not necessarily the forefront, but that explosion of new wave of British heavy metal that came at us in the early '80s. Maybe a couple years behind Iron Maiden and the first few Saxon albums, but a band that seemed really heavy at the time. They kind of in that vein of what Merciful Fate was, a little heavier than what we were used to with Judas Priest and Scorpions and the type of hard rock and metal that was really popular here in the United States. But this is their debut album, Court in the Act. This is a reissue from Music on Vinyl. Again, I never had this in my collection until recently when I found this reissue. But such a great album. We'll take this out and show you a little bit here. For those of you that are not familiar with Satan, I highly recommend you check out everything that this band has to offer, because their entire discography, maybe the second album that came out in '87, maybe not so much, but everything else has been truly amazing. So I'm assuming this is a pretty faithful reproduction of the inner sleeve from the original album. Of course, the lyrics printed there. We've got some other stuff in here. Maybe not. It's Music on Vinyl, but it has the Roadrunner label. But it's on gold vinyl here. Great album. Classic tracks, No Turning Back, Break Free, Alone in the Dock. Those are tunes that they played on this tour. I think they played 3 songs off this album. Trial by Fire, I believe, Break Free, and Alone in the Dock. But Blades of Steel is my favorite track of the album. I wish we could have heard that live, but can't always get what you want. But anyway, a fantastic album. And again, I think I mentioned this earlier. What's fascinating to me is that this lineup of these 5 original guys from 1983 is when the album was originally released, are still in the band, and we're still on this tour. And that to me is really special, to see all the original members still together. But these are some of the most underrated guys in metal. Brian Ross, the vocalist, his vocal style takes a little getting used to. He is a very good and clean singer, but his intonation it's very unique. He doesn't really sound like anybody else, but still has a great voice after all these years. Sean Taylor on drums. Great drummer. I think his drumming on the band's latest album that I'll show you here in a minute was one of the best drumming performances that came out in the year. Graham English on bass guitar, lays down great bass lines, did a great rhythm section, those two guys together. And then Russ Tippins and Steve Ramsey on guitar are one of the more unheralded guitar duos in metal. In fact, a guy at the concert was telling one of his buddies that these two guys is probably the most underrated and underappreciated guitar duo in all of metal, and they're every bit as good as Tipton and Downing and Smith and come on, man. This is what happens when you get old. You start to think of things and they escape you. But Iron Maiden, come on. I know who Iron Maiden's guitar players are. Smith and Murray. There we go. And then later Gears. Yeah, Russ Tippins and Steve Ramsey, absolutely great players. And the guitar work on these albums is fascinating. All right, so that's Court in the Act, their debut. I was able to pick this up at a local record shop in Columbus. This was their third album that was released in 2013. So I guess this was their comeback after many years. This is Life Sentence. This was released on Listenable Records. Was really happy to find a copy of this. I don't think these are readily available out there in the wild anymore. But again, they're great album art. All their album art looks very unique and similar. Let's take this out and show you guys. Again, same lineup. There's all the guys there. Nice photos there, and the lyrics printed on the back. And this is on gold vinyl too, I believe. So we've got the label, and then that kind of the album art print there on the other side. Great songs off this album. Let me find what goes in here. What do we got here? We have Time to Die 2025, which oddly enough was written in 2013 as kind of a futuristic look at what we might be able to expect in the coming years. They played that in their set. It was fantastic live. Siege Mentality was in the set, and Testimony. Great songs. This is just a really good album. And I'll be honest, it's an album that I hadn't given much attention to over the years because really, like I said, I always appreciated Court in the Act as one of those great albums, influential albums from the new wave of British heavy metal, but I never owned it. So Satan just wasn't a band that's always been on my radar over the years. And then the only other album that I have from the band is 2022's Earth Infernal. I've showed this before because this was my 2022 album of the year. There's not much to say about this other than it's fantastic. I truly wish I had taken this with me to the show to get autographed by the band. I wasn't sure how accessible they would be, having never been to this venue. But like most of the smaller shows at these places, I met these guys after the show was over. I talked to everybody except the singer. But I actually parked my car out by the tour bus, and the guys were coming and going a few different times throughout the night out there. So I won't say much about the album other than, it's great. I just wanted to show it because I have it. But I now need to be on the lookout for the rest of their discography. Cruel Magic was released in 2021, I think, maybe. Again, I remember that album coming out. I listened to it. I thought it was really, it was okay. I just didn't spend enough time with it to get immersed in it like I would have had I done that. And the same thing with Atom by Atom, which is one I really want to get my hands on. that album is fantastic. There's just so many great riffs and hooks and solos, and the songwriting is great. It's an amazing album, and I should have had it years ago. But anyway, Hell's Decibels Tour 2023. Unfortunately, I think it's pretty much about to wrap up. But if you are fortunate enough to have an opportunity to catch that tour package before it does end, I don't have the information in front of me anywhere on what the other remaining tour dates are, but they were just part of the Hell's Heroes festival that was a week and a half ago or so. All three of the bands were in the in that area when that was going down, and they were part of that. So I'm really hoping that the band will get a bit of a push, and that all of the Haunt and Night Demon fans that came out to see those guys that maybe aren't familiar with Satan will now appreciate them for everything that they've done for metal going forward. So yeah, if you can get past the nature of the name and that doesn't frighten you, check out this band, check out their discography. Really great stuff, and it was just a really amazing experience at a really neat venue in a really great city. So again, it was the Hell's Decibels 2023 tour. This was supposed to have happened last year or the year before. COVID ruined the initial plan, which was Satan and Night Demon. I don't think Haunt was on that one. But what a fantastic lineup for today's metal. So yeah, this was at the Ace of Cups in Columbus, Ohio, sponsored by, I've got this here, I'll just go ahead and show it to you. The event was co-sponsored by Used Kids Records. That's their address there in Columbus. They're not too far at all away from where the venue is. So if you're in the Columbus area, check that place out, Used Kids Records. They had a great metal section, had all kinds of good stuff there to pick from. And the Ace of Cups is the venue in Columbus. Just real quick, in Columbus, you've got kind of like three music venues where you can see metal shows. The Ace of Cups is the smallest. They have a place called the King of Clubs, which is sort of in the middle, and then they have the legendary Newport, which is where your bigger name bands are going to come through that at least aren't going to be arena shows. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this video. Check out Satan, check out Night Demon, check out Haunt, buy their records, support the bands, and thanks for stopping by. If you're new to the channel, do me a favor, hit like, hit subscribe, and I'll get some more content out for you here shortly. All right, thanks for joining me. Stay metal, and I'll catch you on the flip side.